All right, Bob. How you feeling 2 days after it stopped?
I mean, the season was great. Season absolutely lived up to and exceeded any realistic expectations that you should have had for the team. You're bummed when it ends. I would have been bummed if they won the World Series that it's over. There's no more baseball to watch. I just love baseball. So, yeah, I'll watch the other series, but it's not the Mariners. So, yeah, it's a bummer that it's over. I mean, to end in that fashion, to go 18 innings and see what we saw that night was unreal. That was spectacular. Ending wasn't, but yeah, I mean, just for a baseball fan, how do you not love that?
So what are your biggest takeaways from how the Mariners played in the postseason?
You know, we saw a couple things happen that we saw during the regular season where the offense went a little bit cold. You had great starting pitching. Your bullpen was great. Yeah, there were a couple hiccups here and there, but for the most part, it kind of went to what we talked about during the regular season, where they built everything on their starters going deep. They built everything on a shutdown bullpen and great defense, and the hitting, some nights you got it, some nights you didn't. And that's what happened here. I mean, and you sort of get in that mode, all right, was that great pitching they were facing or were there bad at-bats? The answer is yes. There were both. You saw a lot of chase. You saw a lot of chase from guys you don't normally see swinging, really expanding the strike zone the way that they did. So you saw some bad at-bats, but I mean, listen, you got to give credit to the opposition. That was a phenomenal night of pitching. It was phenomenal. But just throughout the entire postseason, you saw, guys you were hoping would come up big that really didn't. Mitch Haniger didn't have a great postseason. Ty France didn't have a great postseason. They had moments, they had hits here and there, but in terms of, that moment that's embedded in your mind that you look to those guys as your main producers to come up with something, didn't really happen. It happened for some other guys. Adam Frazier comes up with a huge hit. Obviously, Cal Raleigh comes up with a huge hit. Different guys did step up, but it was kind of what we saw during the regular season, which, sets up your shopping list for the offseason.
I understand you may have some things to say about the Astros, so the floor is yours.
Oh, Astros fans, God, I love you. God, I love every one of you that checked in on Twitter, and all of your misspelled insults and your fourth grade humor is awesome. Moron, idiot, thinkers. I love it. I love dealing with special people out there. But yeah, in reality, I love it because there's a rivalry. The Mariners officially have a rival. They've never had one through their whole history. There might be teams that as a Mariner fan you hate. I hate the Yankees, I hate the Red Sox, whatever. But like a legit rival, like, here in town for the Astros fans that are watching, it used to be the Seahawks and the 49ers, and both teams were good. And there was just an awesome sports hate. You just detested every game, felt like a playoff game, and it meant more than just a regular season game. That's what it is now. That's what it is now. I love it. I absolutely love it. Bring it. Bring the hate. Bring the hate. Bring your dictionary too. Learn how to spell. That'll help. But yeah, it's awesome. I loved every minute of it. I love that their social media team did what they did. And, I loved that, as much as they would talk about, oh, well, Seattle's crying, I saw a lot of tears being shed about being called cheaters, but that's the label you're going to wear forever. So that's how it goes, Listen, you got the Black Sox that are still talked about. You got Barry Bonds, who, 26 years ago, set a record. Juicing still gets talked about. Those things, you don't get to set a time limit on when people stop talking about cheating. It goes on forever. It's attached to you forever. So just embrace it and go, because the whole, oh, it's old, stop talking about it. No.
Okay. Obviously, the Mariners need some offensive help this offseason. Who's on your wish list?
Trey Turner. I would love to see them get Trey Turner. No, you've got some really good shortstops that are going to be available. What I would love to see them do is move J.P. Crawford to second base and go after one of these guys, because you kill two birds with one stone there. J.P. didn't have a great year. Was not a great year for him at the plate or in the field, frankly. I like him. I think he's a great presence in that clubhouse. I think you need more out of that position. And I think you could go, whether it's Trey Turner, whether it's Xander Bogaerts, whether it's Carlos Correa, Swanson. You got a lot of names out there that feel like they could address that spot and provide much more production right there that would help this lineup, because, you know, it didn't come from JP. There are a lot of guys you were counting on. You know, in the off season last year going into this season, you're looking at, oh, we got Kyle Lewis coming back, we got Jared Kelnick, we've got, you know, we're going to have Taylor Trammell, we'll have Evan White, we'll have all. You can't count on the unproven commodities. It's nice, it's potential. You hope they turn into Julio Rodriguez. As we've seen, they don't always do that. And I think you're doing yourself a disservice going into the offseason saying, we don't really need to pick up anything extraordinary. We don't need to go crazy with bats because we got these kids ready to go. You don't know that. It didn't work out this year that way. That's not how it worked out. Jesse Winker didn't work out. Again, Kyle Lewis, and it's not a shot at these guys. It's just, those are the facts. I mean, you thought Kelnick was going to take that next step and be a contributor. He spent the majority of the year in AAA. He just hasn't found it yet. Maybe he will, maybe he won't. But that shouldn't preclude you from going out and making the big acquisition, which is the next step. They took the first step this year. You got to the postseason. You won a series in Toronto. Now you got to take the next step next year. You got to give them the ammunition to do it.
How are you going to remember the 2022 Seattle Mariners?
They were exciting. Man, I had more fun watching this team, covering this team than maybe ever, maybe any in recent memory. It just, you know, I came into the year with expectations that my whole slogan for the year was no excuses. You get to the postseason. You won 90 games last year. You take that next step. I don't want to hear about injuries or this didn't happen, that didn't happen. And they did it. They won 90 games again. You got there. So it was, you know, frustrating. It was exhilarating. It was, you know, and that's what I loved, that everybody was so invested and every game felt like it meant so much. So when they lost, you were like, oh, you felt it. And when they won, you felt it. And that kind of investment hasn't been here for a season. You know, it came toward the end of last season, but to have that investment all season long was so much fun. So much fun. You're never going to forget Cal Raleigh's walk-off that clinched the playoff spot for you. I will never forget being in the stands, hugging strangers, beer flying from above, and tears, people are crying. I mean, that's a moment that's going to go down in Mariner history that people will refer to, like 95 and Edgar's double and Cal Raleigh's home run, and that is now embedded in Mariner history. And you know, just to see how it just unified this fan base, and this fan base was present. That's what I'll remember. Just fun, and this team, just everybody's investment in this team was spectacular.